Good luck, Harry Potter.
Well, cover me with eggs and flour and bake me for 40 minutes.
Hello, and welcome to ScreenMasters with me, Bav.
Me, Fluff.
And today, ladies and gentlemen, you join us for the second part of our look at the HBO miniseries Band of Brothers, where this time we'll be covering episodes 6 through 10. But of course, before we get started, I must turn to the immortal words of Pink Floyd and quote the song When the Tigers Broke Free and say, and the Anzio bridgehead was held for the price of a few hundred ordinary lives. It's a very good song, actually, about it's about his grandfather's experiences in the Second World War.
I was going to say, it's a very poetic one from you for a change.
Indeed. There's many lines I could have picked, to be honest. I just quite liked that one because of was held for the price of a few hundred ordinary lives. That is very poetic, I feel, that line. But yeah, the Tigers in the title refers to the Tiger tanks and is specifically about a battle where Tiger tanks came out. Anyway, how are you, my friend?
I'm not too bad. How about yourself?
I'm not too bad either. We'll get into what if we've watched anything since we last recorded, but obviously recording these once a week at the minute is meaning that we watch less stuff in between, or certainly I'm, midway through the second season of Clone Wars now, just to keep everyone up to date with how that's progressing. I won't say anything though. I'll keep my opinions to myself. But so before we crack on, let's do the admin. You can get in touch with us at facebook.com/the ScreenMasters. You over there, you can get all the information on where you can find the podcast. We post other bits and pieces, like there's a quiz up there at the minute and things that the answers have just been posted for. You can also head over to bit.ly/BiteBackYT, which is the YouTube channel for the Biteback Media Network we're part of. Obviously, we're not putting the current episodes up because we're not video recording them at the minute, but you can go back and see the back catalogue before this all kicked off, and what we have got up there if you want to. And also, you can email us more directly at screenmasters@bitebackmedia.co.uk. And remember, in all cases, the bite is spelt like a computer bite, not a food bite. Right, I've exhausted myself for a couple of minutes there. Over to you. What you watched anything interesting? You got any news to bring us?
No, I mean, that's the thing. It's been a quiet week on the viewing, I suppose. The only thing of note, but again, it's we'll go to the wrestling ding section, which was Double or Nothing, which was AEW's Double or Nothing. I should correctly point out for those who don't know the side of wrestling, which was a very, very entertaining pay-per-view. The main event, the Stadium Stampede match, which pitted the Elite versus the Inner Circle, or Chris Jericho's Inner Circle. Sure, people will know who Chris Jericho is by now. Was very entertaining. This era that we're living in at the moment of cinematic wrestling matches during the lockdown. This was by far the best one that they've done so far. Beats WWE stuff as well. It was just entertainment, pure unadulterated entertainment, and I switched off for the hour that I was watching that, and it was hugely entertaining.
Yeah,
but other than that, no, it's really been a quiet week. We've been doing a bit of gaming between us and our good friend Baggy. So yeah, again, watching stuff. Sometimes you need a bit of a break from watching stuff, just to kind of find something to get your teeth into. I watched the first episode, I'll mention, of Space Force. I think it's the Steve Carell series, which is on a particular streaming site. It didn't wow me. The first episode didn't wow me. John Malkovich is in it, and in what appears to be a comedy role. I love John Malkovich when he's funny. I rewatched, I don't think I mentioned this the last time, but I rewatched Red and Red 2. I think Red popped up on Netflix. Neither of them is particularly special, but you know what? The banter between Bruce Willis and John Malkovich reminds me how fucking funny John Malkovich really is. I've seen him in so many things, and in actually comedy, he's really is his wheelhouse. He's very good at the drama and things like that as well. But God, when he's in funny film, it was.
I always loved one of my favourite baddies he's ever played was Cyrus the Virus from Con Air, because he is a fucking evil, sadistic fuck. But at the same time, he's funny.
Yeah,
he has some incredibly hilarious, witty put downs of people as he's going through, or some really amusing, sarcastic comments as he's going along. Doesn't make him any less threatening. No. It doesn't make him, not feel like a bad guy just because he can make a joke.
So like I say, it's been a bit quiet on the viewing front. How about yourself?
Not too much. Me and I forced the children to sit and watch The Love Bug the other day on Disney Plus, which is the first Herbie movie.
I recall,
Yes, although it took me ages to find because I forgot it's not actually called Herbie. It is just called The Love Bug. And if you type Herbie into Disney Plus, it comes up with all the other films apart from that one. Which is
I'm trying to remember. Is The Love Bug the one where the car gets cut in two?
Yep, that's it.
There you go. I remember that one.
The first one. It's the most famous one. Yeah, car gets cut in two. They finish first. The back end of the car finishes first. The front end of the car finishes third, and the baddie finishes second.
Yeah.
Even though me as an adult sitting watching it, I was going, well, that just doesn't fucking work. It just doesn't fucking work. The engine's in the back of the car, so maybe the back could win, but the front wouldn't go anywhere because it's got no power. Well, but yeah, my son really enjoyed it, and my daughter said she did, but I'm not convinced she actually did. I think she just liked the family time, but I appreciate that either way. But I have said I'll make them watch the rest because the payoff will be for them to watch Herbie Fully Loaded, which will be very much their version of it.
Yay!
Which is
Lindsay Lohan. Yay!
As a fan of Herbie, I don't mind that film. It takes it's quite. I don't mind it too much. It is. I feel it's like a reboot for the noughties, which is what it was. It's the same idea, same story, just with better CG, better effects, so they can do a bit more silly stuff with it. The only other thing I'd noted was I'm very happy because I read the other day that Sylvester Stallone has decided he's going to do a Demolition Man 2.
Yeah, we touched on this off pod, didn't we?
Yeah, and I fucking love Demolition Man. I
love Demolition Man.
I bring this up because the same as our little brief Starship Troopers discussion the other day, I was going to rewatch Starship Troopers for the episode I'm working on about the best bad films. And, my favourite bad films. And again, that one, Demolition Man, popped into my head because I was like, is that a good film? Is it actually a good film? Or is it a crap piece of 90s nonsense that I just really enjoy? But the more I read into it, actually, there is quite a groundswell of support for that film actually being a good action film.
Yeah, I find
the more I think about it in those contexts, actually, it is. It's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it was
great
like
action. It's got two huge action stars at their peak, facing off against each other.
That was the thing.
It's got Sandra Bullock. The whole thing about the no sex and the murder, death, kills. I remember that, and the no swearing.
Yeah, like you say,
he keeps getting
the fact that it's like Sandra Bullock's first big foray into kind of mainstream films. You look at the successful career that she's had since then. Win Academy Awards and directing and producing and whatnot. Wesley Snipes, obviously, this was kind of at that peak crux of his career. Obviously, he went up and did Blade and various other things there until
Blade was not
the
far after this, though, wasn't it?
No, not at all. Not at all. This was kind of.
I consider Blade sort of peak Snipes as well. Before, I don't know.
Blade 2 was probably
too much powder
peak.
Or whatever it was.
Or whatever the hell it was. Apparently, it was high as a kite when he was doing 3.
I remember those stories.
Patton
Ryan Reynolds.
Patton Oswalt and Ryan Reynolds, and Sliced Alone again. You're like, he's still old. Sliced Alone, you look back at this and you go, Jesus Christ, he's still old. And then like you look at a film 20, 30 years and you go, you know what, you're not aged too badly in the last 20, 30
he's
years.
He's just gotten a bit rougher, and I can't understand him at all now. I struggled with his voice in the first place, but now I really can't understand what he's saying. And you know what? It's just occurred to me. I was just thinking, I haven't watched the last Rambo. The Last Stand. And then I went, no, fuck, I have watched it. It's just so fucking shit and forgettable.
Yeah,
it's mostly fallen out the back of my head. Because actually, it's horrible. And it's horrible for no reason.
Yeah.
And then it turns into Rambo does Home Alone for the last bit. For the third act.
Yeah,
but,
it's a
storyline with a girl. I think we may have even discussed it on pod,
We may well have done. Where?
Jesus, this all blends into one at the minute. Anyway, let's move off that then before I make myself sound like a fool and give my review of Rambo: The Last Stand again, even though it doesn't deserve a review the first time round if I did do it. So, yes, we are back looking at the 2001 HBO series Band of Brothers. In the previous part, we covered episodes... there was a word there somewhere. Covered episodes 1 through 5. So if you haven't listened to that part, please do go back. Released a couple of weeks... No, would have released about 4 weeks ago at the time of release. Yeah,
well, let's face it, the continuity of when we're recording and when it's releasing is completely gone out the window now. So
yes, we have been recording all these two-parters split from one to the next. Hopefully, what we're trying to do, guys, is get ourselves ahead so that the next time we'll need to record will be sort of July, and then hopefully we'll have access to better recording facilities again, and we can actually be together again in some sort of socially appropriate scenario to record this stuff. But hey-ho, at the minute, we're still using Discord. So yes, I shall pass the torch over to you and bring up the notes on my phone for episode 6.
So, as we left the previous one, so the previous episode that we had left, which was Crossroads, where basically it kind of ends with Winters, who is Damian Lewis's character, again, for those who just need a bit of reminding. That was his, elevation, and now he's in command of the whole battalion. So we've seen that as the episodes have kind of progressed, he's obviously been in command. He's been well respected by the members of Easy Company. The sergeants follow him, the general men follow him, and now he's been put in that position where he's actually in charge. So again, it's kind of that thing of you see his overall development, but you actually acknowledge the fact that he's probably the best person to lead this. So we lead into Bastogne, which is one of the most harrowing fucking episodes I think you'll ever watch of most TV shows. The sheer fear that some of these guys must have been going through. So this is commonly known as the Battle of the Bulge as well for those people who know bits and bobs about the Second World War.
Yeah, it's based around Bastogne in France.
Yeah, so essentially what this...
essentially.
Yeah, so they were in kind of a wooded enclosure, and they were just surrounded on all sides pretty much by Germans, and they were just getting shelled and fired upon, constantly, with very little resource, with very little clothing, with very little food, very little ammo.
That's the thing, isn't it? This is all the stuff that I didn't realise. Sorry to cut you off there, but this is the stuff that got to me as the episode's going through. I'll mention it now, but is that you always think like that when you're going out to do your job, particularly if it's the army, that you'd have the right equipment. It's never occurred to me that you would send an army out in the dead of winter in freezing conditions without the appropriate equipment. But of course that happened. It's just my naivete that made me go, really? They're still going out there? I mean, can you imagine that in the modern day?
Yeah.
People would go, no, I'm not going out there. I need a coat.
Yeah.
I want some gloves.
Yeah.
But you didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
You don't go out there and fight. You're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want? And yeah, the amount of ammo when they were saying, because again, it's the picking apart the documentary bit at the beginning and the sort of what you see in the episode, and ammo is very scarce, and it gets to the point where they're like, oh, each person's got enough for one round per gun. You're like, what the fuck are you supposed to do with that? You're getting shelled and by fucking mortars and shit, and you got people in the ditch just opposite you, and you got one bullet. And then, and so I was thinking like, oh, dramatic contrivance. But at the beginning, the talking head goes, yeah, there were times there where we literally had one bullet each in our guns, and we had no idea what we were going to do if they ran at us.
Mm-hmm.
So what?
Yeah.
That's crazy. You can't do that.
Yeah. It's the scene,
it's just,
where...
I say, just a dawning experience, this episode for me, for how like I say, naive, perhaps, I am towards, war and what happens in war and the realism of war, because that sort of stuff, I never saw that sort of stuff in Saving Private Ryan. Maybe I missed it, but I don't remember there being problems.
Yeah, this is the thing. When it comes to these kind of things, you hear it in war programs, or even say going to say Star Trek DS9, where the war is happening in DS9. They talk about supply lines and things like that, and you don't really understand the significance of it. And they say, like, well, we've cut their supply lines off, or our supply lines have been drawn thin. What are the supply lines? Your supply of ammo, of clothing, of food, basically what keeps your army to survive. Sorry, and what was the really poignant scene, and you mentioned it because we talked about Jimmy Fallon. For randomly just appearing, and he appears in a jeep with a load of ammo, and again there's loads of guys just walking away from the battle, and they're just completely shell shocked. They have no fucking idea what's going on. They're completely out of it because of what the experience they've gone through. And they're like, oh, we just got, they just took over us, man. Okay. And they're just grabbing all the ammo off these guys.
Taking ammo off them, everything
that they can grab. And that's it, you're like, okay, they're running low on supplies at this point.
Yeah, and like you say, I mean, half of, as you'll get into as a minute, but part of the storyline for the character we follow for this, for about at least 10 or 15 minutes, is literally just running from one person to the next, trying to get some morphine.
Yeah, and also
a bandage and a pair of fucking scissors. Yeah, and it's ridiculous. But go on, I hand it back to you. Apologies. I just wanted to cover that at the beginning as sort of a general point that sort of dawned on me at this stage. That, as you say, it's the background of the war. That's what I never thought about that. The back end, like you say, how do you plan these supply routes to keep the frontline troops stocked up? Well, you've got to keep that land then, haven't you, behind you? Mm-hmm. So you can't just push forwards and then let them sweep in behind you, which is essentially what had happened here.
Yeah, and this is where the Blitzkrieg, the German Blitzkrieg, didn't always work for them, because they would, run forward, dash forward, attack, dash forward, attack, dash forward. And so what they were doing, the German tanks were constantly moving forward, but they were stretching their supply line so thin that became the fundamental problem for the Germans. There's a great, I think we've mentioned it before, World War II in colour, which is on a particular streaming site.
Yeah. No, start mentioning the name, because when this whole lockdown thing's off, they might be doing advertising again, so we can.
Okay. So on Netflix, everybody,
save me $7.50 a month.
There's a great series called World War II in Colour. It covers every aspect of World War II that you never knew that you wanted to know about, and it's very, very interesting, and Blitzkrieg is part of it. So anyway, let's go back to actual Band of Brothers. So yeah, we follow this story with the medic, Eugene. I think it's Eugene Rowe, I think his full name is. But so this is kind of a back character that we've seen throughout some of the episodes, because somebody shouts medic, you see Eugene say run over. So you kind of get the impression this is our medic. So we're very much following his story throughout this. Now, as you say, it's a case of him going round and checking the men while they're stuck in the woodlands, in the freezing cold, and he's going round and checking on the well-being of the men. What becomes apparent as we progress is, he's got his own well-being to actually worry about as well, which he's not considering. Thankfully, Winters is very good enough to kind of notice it and tells him a little bit later, go and get a hot meal, go and get some rest, because you're our medic, and if you go down, we are fucked, basically. But yeah, it covers Eugene as he goes from pit to pit, because they've all dug their own little pits or foxholes. Foxholes. So they've each dug their foxholes and stuff like that. They're keeping warm. They're trying to keep sane and things like that. It's the beautiful. It's the little moments, the beautiful little moments. Like he goes into a foxhole with a couple of guys, and they're sat there, and they're just, I don't know whether it's soup or just some warm water, tea, coffee, whatever. And that's it. They're boiling it, and the doc comes in, and they all call him Doc. And he doesn't call them by their nicknames. So they've all got nicknames. You can't help but be in an army and not have a nickname. Yeah. And so he does. He doesn't call people by their nickname. He calls them by their surname or the Christian name, which is just...
What is the one example of that the whole way through, he's calling someone by their other name, and they're like, why don't you call me this? I can't remember who it is now.
It's Babe. The guy who he finally gives the nickname to at the very end.
And then it's right at the end, isn't it? That he actually calls him Babe, and he goes, you just called me Babe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's like a breaking point for him. So they're going through various. He's going through foxhole for foxhole, like you say, looking for morphine, making sure they've got enough morphine, making sure they've got bandages. Looking for a pair of scissors so that people that have got trench foot at this point, people's feet are fucking freezing at this point. He's telling people how to keep their shoes, their boots. These are the things that they had to do, and this is one of the most important episodes, I think, for me, because it was showing even in the downtime where there's no action, this is not an action filled one, but they still got to maintain.
I mean, it is, but it isn't.
It
You're
is.
absolutely
It
right.
is. Yeah.
We spend most of our time flying around with the medic from here to there to there to there, so he's not in the action per se, but there is action around him, and he just sort of comes in and out of it as the story, as his story dictates.
So, one of his soldiers gets wounded one of the soldiers gets wounded at one point. Sorry, going back to my point. Yeah, he keeps going in and out of the foxholes, and at one point they give him some coffee, and it's like he just takes a sip, and it's just like hands it back. Those are the little moments that I feel brings that camaraderie, that really shows this brotherhood. These band of brothers. This is showing that brotherhood, that they are looking out for each other, even in these little things. A little bit of warm water and things like that keeps the morale up. So somebody gets injured, and then he goes off into the town with him, puts him on a jeep, and they obviously take him to a church. This is in the middle of France. This whole
is in
town,
Bastogne town.
Bastogne, yeah, and the whole town has just been bombed to absolute shit. One of the few buildings still surviving is the church. So they go into the church, and there are just makeshift gurneys everywhere. There are lines and lines of injured people. Small injuries, big injuries. He meets this French nurse, and they build a bit of a relationship, a bit of a rapport. He's asking for what supplies he can get. She gives him a box and just loads him up with bandages and this, that, and the other. So again, he's having to scrape what resources he can from people who really have no resources whatsoever as well. And it's harrowing to see everything that they go through. They talk about a little bit, how each of them is kind of treating their soldiers, and how what they're doing is still important. Like everything is going on around them, and he sees that the reaction that soldiers get from when she goes to try and help out. He's like, you've got a calming touch. Like you're doing a good thing. You're doing a good job. But she hates it because she's like, it feels like a curse to her that she's just helping people and they're dying and they're injured and they're dying, and they're trying to save people's lives, and then at one point they lose. They're each trying to help save this guy, and he dies, and it's just that bitter feeling that as much as they try, there's going to be somebody else wheeled through the door the next the next 5 minutes. So again, like there's bombs and whatnot going off in Bastogne. The guys are getting injured, and shit is not going great for them there. There's just explosions left, right, and center. Like when there's shelling, you've just got trees just exploding left, right, and fucking center. We get a few of the important cast members injured at this point. And it's really harrowing to see, because you see these guys like being blown apart, and you're like, fucking hell, people getting buried by trees. And it is, like I say, this is one of the most harrowing one, because it's not the enemy in front of you that you could pick up a gun and shoot the enemy right in front of you. It's not. They're miles away. They're shelling from miles away. You've no idea whether you're going to get hit or not. So this continues, and then the Germans one night, you hear a lot of explosion, and then one night, basically the town has been bombed to absolute hell. And so Eugene goes back. At this point, he's gone back to the church to try and help out, try and get more resources, etc. And finds that the nurse that he'd kind of built up a rapport and who'd shared chocolate with him and stuff has died. And the only semblance of acknowledgement is the fact that he pulls out her handkerchief, or like her head bandana thing, from the rubble, so he knows that she's there. Which he then uses. He's like, he wants to keep it. He doesn't want to lose it, but then he needs it for a wound later on, and he looks at it and then he just tears it up anyway. He's like, this is, I need to help somebody out. And that's the point where he calls the guy babe, because he's had that moment of realization. Your thoughts on this episode?
Well, so yeah, like you say, this It's cold. It's the dead of winter. No one's got anything. This episode, the atmosphere that they created with this episode, I don't know how they did it. I don't know whether they actually shot it in the winter, wherever they were, because I mean, I think they did. They must have been cold wherever they were because of the what do you call it? Breath. Thank you. Yeah, you can see their breath. So, and again, it's 2001, so I don't think they were going to the extent of CGing cold breath out of everyone's mouth. So I assume they did shoot it somewhere fairly cold. But I fucking so cold, and it's what word was my touchstone last time? Authenticity, authentic. It feels absolutely authentic. I believed that they were there. I felt like I was there. It was absolutely crazy. There's a bit at the beginning when, like you say, when he first meets the French doctor, and again, it's that. I've not written down his name, and I feel really bad now because he is fucking fantastic, and I've never seen him in anything else, the guy who plays Eugene. But he is incredible, and I love that bit where they first bond because she's trying to help someone, and that sequence, I felt physically squirmy when a sequence makes you squirm, because I'm fairly sure, if I remember rightly, they're digging inside someone's body trying to squeeze a vein, trying to stop a bleeding vein with their hands or whatever, and they're trying to dig in and find it, and it just made me go, oh God, that's horrible. But again, it's the authenticity of it. It's insane. I think it was supposed to be this way, but there's a speech in there where, is it from the general? When he comes down, and of course, everyone's got no supplies and all that sort of stuff, and they're telling them. And this general comes down and gives them like a Merry Christmas speech for Christmas.
Oh, yeah, a little pep talk. Yeah.
Yeah. I just this Merry Christmas speech is so weird for me. It's such bullshit, rally the troops crap. And I hate that sort of shite in the face of absolute nonsense. When you can see plain as day what the situation is, and you're still putting this propaganda rally the troops bullshit up in front of them. And I just don't get why, because I know the argument was in the past, morale. You got to keep the morale up. If you let them know what the situation actually is, they'll lose hope. Bollocks. Look at the way they all react to it. They all know it's a load of shit. No one gets rallied. Yeah,
they all just walk away like, well, that was a fucking...
fucking hell. So we're not getting any fucking supplies then, are we? Because that twat's not fucking, just crazy. This was the point I made a note as well, because there's a bit, like you say, when we go to one of the front foxholes, right on the front line, I think it's the one where the guy who's got trench foot is. Because he has to, Kirk Acevedo, I think his name is. That's the actor anyway. Because, like you said, Eugene has to go and get a pair of boots for him, because he's lost his boots and he's going to get trench foot. But Buck, Neil McDonough, at this point, I was like, is he going crazy? Because there's that bit in that foxhole, and he's just talking crap. He's just not making any sense.
Blank. He's just staring forward. His expression is blank, and he's just talking shit. And then he kind of catches himself, and then And this is the beginning of where you see.
It was so good and so subtle that I just made the note of: are they starting him going crazy, or have I missed something prior to this? The sequence towards the end, like you say, when Eugene is going back to Bastogne and it's all being, it's all been bombed to shit. I thought that was incredibly well done. So heart-wrenching. The music was perfect. Again, the authenticity of the set. It looked fantastic. I don't know how they did this shit. I really don't, because it doesn't look like sets to me. I'm sure they were, but they don't look like sets. It looks like there's real stuff around the outside of it. And yes, as you say, the what followed was the Battle of the Bulge, which then led to their quote unquote rescue, which was listed in text at the end of the episode. But that continues to play forwards with us, because as far as Easy Company are concerned, they didn't need rescuing.
Yes,
that's their words, isn't it? No one from Easy Company has ever said that they needed.
Yeah,
rescuing.
It's the thing at the end of the episode, like, General S. Patton's like, we came and rescued these boys.
Yeah, and
they're like, two fingers up, fuck off, pal. You can go fuck yourself. You didn't rescue shit. We were holding this line. We didn't need your fucking assistance.
Yeah, We just needed people to come and back us up and help us push forwards. But like you say, they were holding it perfectly fine as far as they were concerned in the situation they were in. I mean, yeah, you've covered most. I think I could quite possibly go on for hours about this episode. I could probably write an entire essay on it because it is one of the most perfect pieces of television I've ever seen in my life. Or not even television. It's the recorded art. You know, I consider it a small movie because of the production value and quality in it. It's one of the most incredible things I've seen on television. It impacted me so much because as I've explained at the beginning, I hadn't thought of an entire part of war until this episode. And then to see this little bit character who at the beginning of the episode, I was like, oh, do I really want to follow the medic around? And he's just so fucking good. And they bond over the fact that he's Cajun, so he speaks French, which is a lovely touch. And I don't know whether the lad who played him is from New Orleans or that sort of area. But good God, he did a magnificent Cajun accent because I was trying to click onto what his accent was right at the beginning. I was like, he's got such a twinge to his accent. I can't quite place it. And then when he said he was Cajun, I was like, oh, that's it. That's it. He sounds a little bit like the guy who used to overblow the Gambit voice in the X-Men cartoon. Obviously, that was an over-the-top impression. This is my favorite episode by a long shot. I adore this episode. I would like to say, if I was a lecturer in any sort of televisual arts, I would show my children. I would show my pupils this, and I think you could show them this episode for any part of filmmaking, directing, writing, acting. It just music, sound design, set design, production design. You can pick any element of it, and I fucking guarantee you it's perfect. And you could use it as an example to teach people how to set things up like that.
Yeah, it's all of the elements of.
I quite liked it.
Yeah, I got that impression. And it's really funny that I've been telling you for ages to watch this, and you find it. But no, this is the one
this podcast provides us, isn't it?
This is it to watch great shows, and encourage you to do the same, everybody. But yeah, it's great acting, great storytelling. From the little things to the big things. It is an examination of how prepared soldiers are in war. Not always. That probably still goes down today. People are put in war zones and situations where they do not have the right kit and gear and weather equipment and all this, that, and the other. But guess what? They still got to fucking go out and do the job. So this was just one of the best ones for me. But we could probably spend a good deal more on this. But we'll move on to the next episode because we've still got a few to go. So the next episode... Yeah,
essentially, I stopped myself making notes at some point during that episode because I was like, this is going to be an entire episode if I carry on. So I just stopped and I just bullet pointed some things I needed to touch on.
Sure. So the next one is Breaking Point, and this is basically the battle near Foy in Belgium. So this is a bit hard in a couple of places, again, as we'll get to. Unfortunately, the injury and the removal in some respects of a number of characters that we've kind of known.
No, yeah, I'm just looking through my notes going,
no! Yep. So it kind of... It also questions at this point the company's commander, the worst goddamn commander who literally just disappears and keeps going, right, I'm going for a walk and then I've got a meeting, and you don't see him for literally the entire episode. He just ups and disappears, and they're like, where is it? Dyke, that was it. Norman Dyke, I think it is. Yeah. They're like, oh, where's Lieutenant Dyke? Don't know, and it's just it's
because doesn't it transpire that he's friends of someone in the high command or something, so that's why he's been given a high position role so that he can then move up into the higher echelons and all that.
Yeah, but it starts off with a few members of Easy Company, and they come across this German on a horse, who's a rider. Probably a communications officer or something like that. He's obviously shifting messages. So they managed to kill him, and it turns out he's got a Luger, which is something that one of them, Hubler, I think it is.
Hubler,
has been
That's
looking for
right
since
at the beginning,
day one.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm going to get a Luger.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so he gets that, and he's talking to Shifty and stuff like that, because Shifty wasn't there, and he kind of, so Shifty is the company sniper who is the best shot.
Yeah,
and this comes up so many times throughout the series. Shifty is so like literally you would always want Shifty on your side, put it that way. And I love him. And they kind of joke, and he's showing off his Luger and stuff like that. Unfortunately, this doesn't go well, because Hubler accidentally shoots himself in the leg with the Luger. He's kind of showing it off, doesn't realise, and shoots himself in the leg. Now, this is again one of those scenes where they're ripping his trouser legs apart. That Eugene's getting in there, trying to grab the vein, just trying to get, and they can't find it, and he ends up dead. And it's just like,
bleeds out. Fucking horrible.
Even when they're not fighting, people are dying, and this is kind of a common thread as we go through these final few episodes.
Again, it's an illustration of, I mean, because there's no other way to say it. It's human stupidity. That is, like you say, just you're mucking about with something, you're looking at it, bang, oh fuck, you no intention of shooting himself in the leg, of course not. But that's just human nature. We mess with things sometimes, and sometimes they blow up in our face, and we pay the price.
Yeah, so
because this whole episode, if I'm remembering rightly, is voiceovered from Donnie Wahlberg's point of view.
Yes,
if I'm
Sergeant Lipton.
Sarge, thank you.
Sergeant
I've just written
Lipton,
him down as Sarge, but yeah, Lipton, that's right. So yeah, it's all sort of narrated from his point of view, isn't it? Because again, this is another episode where they sort of change, not necessarily the gimmick, but they change the way they're telling the story in this particular episode, because the other one was not voiced over by Eugene, but we were following his story very directly through what was going on. And now we're not necessarily following Donnie Wahlberg's character, we're following all the men, but he is the one commenting, leading us through what's happened in this particular part.
So we've got Winters and Nixon are kind of discussing about the fact that Dyke is an absentee commander, and they have no idea what the fuck to do, because they don't really want him in charge. They don't have a choice, but they're kind of talking about the only people that could possibly replace him. And the only person at this point that they can think is Buck. We learn soon enough that that's not going to be an option. So there's a lovely little conversation between Dyke and Lipton as well. He's just, because he's just like, he just doesn't seem to have any. He's just like, oh, where are you from? And then just cuts him off like mid-sentence and just walks away. And you're like, is this guy just a lunatic or what? And he's just like, oh, I've got a call with headquarters or something like that.
Yeah, I've got to go back to regiment.
Yeah, and we also see Spears again. So he's again throwback. So they're all talking about Spears. So this is the guy from like episode 1 or 2 where he'd gunned down a bunch of Germans. He'd like offered them smoke and then gunned them down. So they're all talking about it, and he walks up and
tales, wasn't it?
Yeah. So he walks up to the guys as they're talking, and he just goes, "Oh, do you guys want a cigarette?" And their faces are just a picture of horror. Which is just brilliant, because he clearly has heard it and he knows the story. But what's the best way of making people in your regiment, in your company, afraid and let these stories live out? Let them actually be
let
real.
People think what they want.
Exactly, and that's it. The myth and the legend of him is very interesting. So anyway, they're digging a bunch of foxholes and stuff like that. So they've kind of moved outside of Foy. They're digging the foxholes, and then suddenly there's like bombardment begins. And so this is where we get some serious injury. So Joe Toya loses his leg. Bill Garano, or Gonorrhea, as he is nicknamed in it, goes off because he can hear his friend. He's like, no, stay in your fox. Is that Joe? Yeah, that's Joe. I'm going. And he just gets up out of his foxhole and he goes and he rushes him and he sees him. He's like, come on, Joe. I've got you. And he's dragging him and he's dragging him and he's dragging him. And then boom, another shell comes down right next to the both of them. And so Buck Compton walks up and suddenly sees two of his best friends in the company are completely sparko on the ground. One's lost a leg. One's completely out. And for all he knows, they're just dead. And it's just him. Medic! And that's it. That's his snapping point.
Yep.
And that's it. You can see it. Like the next thing is like Lipton's talking about. That's it. Buck's, Buck was shell shocked. That was it. He was taken off the front line at that point. And it's just harrowing. More bloody shells go off. A couple more people die. One lands in a foxhole right next to the guys, and they're just sat there. And he's just like grabs a cigarette. The guy who doesn't smoke grabs a cigarette and puts it in his mouth and lights it up because he's just survived a bomb, basically landing right next to them. Yeah. It's just like, my God, it's just pretty fucking harsh. Malarkey is obviously upset, which is Scott Grimes' character, because two of his best friends have now been injured. His third best friend, Compton, is completely out of it and is being shipped home, which is the right thing to do.
He sort of loses all of his best mates, doesn't he?
Literally, loses two of his best friends to injury, one of his best friends to PTSD at this point. And so Lipton goes up to him, who he's still got the Luger from way back at the beginning of the episode. And to try and raise Malarkey's spirits, he gives him the gun. He's like, didn't your kid brother want a Luger? There you go. You give it to him. So oh, thanks. And it kind of puts a smile on his face, even with all this fucking horrible shit. And he's like, look, do me a favor. Before Buck goes, go and say goodbye to him. And he lets him go off and do that kind of thing. So he gets to say goodbye to his friend, and he's trying to read out a letter, and Buck's getting very emotional and stuff like that. And this is one of them, again, this is like emotional episodes. So while all this is going on, we're like halfway through the episode at this point. The main crux of the episode is that they need to go into Foy and push forward. And they need to essentially take the town. So the next day, they prepare to attack, and they run through the plan with Dyke, the complete moron, who is just like, yep, cool, yep, I understand, no problem. He doesn't understand a goddamn thing that's going on. They get to the battle, and he's like, you need to keep moving forward. You need to keep moving forward. Whatever happens, don't stop. Keep moving forward. Keep advancing. As soon as they get to one point, he stops, and they're like, keep moving. And Winters is so angry, so upset the fact that he's not doing what he's been told, that he's about to run out there. And then the general's like, Winters, don't you dare go out there. So this is where Winters turns around to Spears. He's like, Lieutenant Spears, get up there and take control of that company. And that's it. This is, again, the myth of Lieutenant Spears only gets bigger, because Lipton, again, this is from Lipton's perspective. He's at the front, he's with Dyke, and he's like, sir, we need to move. And nothing's happening. And then Spears comes running up, and he goes, right, this is where you go. We need to meet up with them. Okay, leave that to me. So he gets up, runs across the middle of the battlefield, meets up with the guys on the other side of the town, jumps back over the wall, and runs back to his original position. And Lipton's like, I don't know what the fuck I just saw, but we've just found our new commander. And that's it. It's just, it's just so fucking funny. He just runs back. They cave in a roof, and that's it. They're just like, okay, I need that building being destroyed. I need that roof done. Spears is, he knows exactly what needs to be done. It just cracks me up, because he just like, Lipton at this point just looks at him. He's telling him all. He's like, do this, and he just looks at him, smiles. He's like, yes, sir. Now we've got a guy who can actually tell us what to do. So they managed to, take Foy, thankfully. Shifty, being the awesome sniper that he is, again, Lipton and Shifty, they seem to have this little camaraderie. Like they help each other. Like Lipton's like, I'm going to run over here. Shifty, you keep an eye out for him. So he runs. The sniper takes a shot at him, but Shifty kills him. And he's just like, he just looks over. He's like, I fucking love Shifty. And it was just, so it was an episode of two halves, really, because you had the really harrowing stuff. We had the injury and removal of a number of core characters that have kind of been there, but then we kind of get the guy who's going to be in charge of this unit from now on, a guy you've actually confident in, whose legend is only going to get bigger from here.
Yeah, and like you say, it's been built for us all the way along as a little side project coming in and out of episodes.
Yeah, and then it ends with Spears. Yeah, he's now officially in charge of the company, and he and Lipton are obviously talking. But he's, Lipton's not been forgotten about. everything that he's been doing, essentially being the guy that, you know, was leading the troops until Spears got there. And so, yeah, he's like, there you go, there's your lieutenant stripes. And Lipton's completely, you know, befuddled at this point because he doesn't realize, he didn't think he'd get promoted. He has. And yeah, it's just, you know, one of those episodes where it brings the camaraderie of the unit together after all of the destruction that just happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Your thoughts on this one?
So yeah, I believe we got our Michael Fassbender cameo in this one.
We did.
Very, very short. as a lot of these are. It's hilarious. They're just in it for nothing.
I think he does appear
who
one
were
or
they
two more
20
times.
years ago? Probably.
He does appear one. I'm sure he appears one or two more times.
Maybe,
I'm sure.
Maybe. Obviously, yeah. I haven't read ahead in my notes, so I don't know. There's that artillery sequence that you mentioned in the woods. That is absolutely incredible. The shot choices there, I thought, were brilliant. Because there's one where they sort of pan out of the woods and look at the woods from a distance.
Yeah.
And you can just see all the fire, you know, all the explosions and stuff lighting up the wood from a distance. And again, when you see it on that large scale, you're like, fuck, actually, this, you know, it just puts a different perspective on it. I can't believe I lost Bill and Joe. No, Bill and Joe, gutted. And then I hope they survive. Yeah. Obviously, yes. Again, then the next note is Buck was going crazy. Gutted. He was so good. So he goes. So yeah, it's like you say, it's a very, very powerful episode, that one, because it is about, I feel it sort of focuses on the human cost on one element, because like you say, these people, they didn't all survive. They didn't all make it to the end.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't all make it to the end uninjured. They didn't sit next to each other in the foxholes throughout the entire thing, because they came in and out of things as they were injured, potentially. And leadership, and what a difference that makes. You know, I feel it was sort of playing at that point again of, which is a point that we'd covered sort of episode 1-ish, when they all the NCOs said, we don't want to go into battle with Sobel in command.
Yeah.
It's sort of that again, only they don't quite go the same way, and it gets sorted out a bit.
They're in the middle of war at this point. What choice do they have?
Exactly.
You know?
But again, it's that thing that we touched on at the beginning, and it's still relevant now. The leadership is key. If you don't have the right leadership in place, you're not going to get through this. So yes, I thought it was very good. Like I say, it doesn't top episode 6 for me, but it doesn't mean it wasn't good.
So we go from that one and into the next, which is again another one. So this is the great thing I love about it, is that you go from character to character who's not necessarily been around, so you get that different perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we now get Webster, who again had been kind of a back character you'd seen and interacted with. He'd got injured a little while ago back in, I think it was Holland. So this is kind of his reintroduction to the company. Now, he's not gone through the harrowing shit that they've gone through in Bastogne. So he's coming in a little bit fresh-faced. He's coming in well-rested, recuperated. He's psychologically, he's all good. Yeah. But as soon as he arrives, the unit is not good. They are not in a good position. They also kind of look at him as somebody who didn't necessarily rush to get back onto the fighting lines. Like other people, you know, took the injury, checked themselves out of hospital, and then just came back. In hindsight, they wanted to be their brothers.
In the arse, didn't he? And
yeah,
various other ones had other injuries as it were.
Yeah, like had a sling and stuff like that. Yeah. So he also comes along with another character who is Colin Hanks.
Yes.
So he's basically been shipped over from America, from the military academy or whatever. He's clearly on the fast track to
officer, isn't he?
Officer and all that kind of stuff. So they kind of arrive at the town, which, you know, they're you know, looking after a town, and basically they're told, okay, yeah, go to this company, no, go to this company, and you know, so they're sent left, right, and center, and they're told, okay, go to Malarkey. So they go off and go to find Malarkey, and they're running through the streets, and the streets are being bombed, and they're cowering and hiding and stuff like that. There's still shit going off all over the place, and it's like, okay, we're perfectly content that this is all fine. So they go to Malarkey, who is looking a bit of a fucking wreck at this point.
Yeah, he is.
We obviously know he's lost his good friends from the previous episode. He hasn't shaved in a very long time. He is not looking that good. He is really not looking good. This whole episode kind of centers around the patrol, which is the title of it.
The Last Patrol.
The Last Patrol. And so this is all to do basically with the commanders want them to go and patrol the opposite side of the river. So they're on a river, and they're on one side, the Germans on another. They have they're each occupying a certain house or a certain area on each side of it. So the whole point of the patrol is that they want to go out there. They don't know what's going on with Germany at the moment. They're like, okay, we've got suspicions. We need to go and capture some guys, and we need to get that information. So this whole point is basically about sending them out on a patrol. Now, this was where some of it comes in because, the guy, Colin Hanks' character, kind of wants to lead it. He kind of wants to be in charge, and people looking at him like, you've got no battle experience, you've got no combat experience, never in a million fucking years. Now, Webster is kind of hoping to try and get, this guy to like him and to also give Malarkey a bit of a break. He's seen Malarkey and he can tell Malarkey is not in a good fucking place. So he kind of takes it upon himself to try and get this guy to take over the patrol. He doesn't. In the end, it's Dexter Fletcher's character who gets assigned the patrol and stares daggers at Webster, pretty much hating him for putting him in this position. So he gets his team together and they go across the river. And they do the necessaries, they get into the building, they take a couple of prisoners. Unfortunately, somebody stupid enough who clearly hasn't gone on many raids throws a grenade through the fucking window and then runs in through the door, not giving the grenade time to actually explode. And it basically blows up in his face. So they lose a guy as a result of the patrol. But they also, get some good information. They get some good intel from the guys. So guess what? The higher-ups want them to go and do another patrol.
Because it was so successful.
Because it was so successful and gave them the right information. And this is one of the good things about it. So again, you've got Colin Hanks' character here who's new to the guys. You've seen other members of the kind of team, Webster included, just seeing the harrowing shit that went down the night before, and they can't believe that this guy's died as a result of just going out there to do this. So this is where Winters just kind of comes into the room. It's like, yep, you've all done a bang-up job. The higher-ups want you to do it again. So at this time is when you should be going. But I want you to all get a good night's rest, and I want you to come to me in the morning, tell me that you went across and you could find fuck all, and we'll leave it be. And basically gives them the out. Yeah. He's like, I don't want you guys to risk your lives running a stupid plan of trying to get a couple of captives, all for the sake of losing a guy. It's not worth it. Don't do it. And this is where Colin Hanks kind of looks at him and he's like, should this be the right thing to do? But this little bit of battle experience and being around the brotherhood of these band of brothers gives him more insight than he'd ever probably learned at the academy. In these few small days that he's been there, has given him an insight more than anything. And so because of Webster being there and because he'd calmed everybody down as well, so when they'd taken the Germans prisoner, everybody wanted to kill the Germans because one of their guys had died. Even though it was by his own hand, Webster's the one that's kind of keeping them all calm and talking German because he's a German. He can speak German. And he's keeping everybody calm. He's being the diplomatic one here. And everybody kind of acknowledges that a little bit more. And then as they're going away, where previously they wouldn't let him into the back of the truck, this time they offer an arm down and they pull him in. And he's kind of embraced back into the unit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, it's an interesting one because it is that. I never, again, it's another part you don't think of unless you've actually been in war, I guess. But that thing of people who have been away from the front lines and then return. And I never thought about the experience that the team goes through during those periods. And obviously, as we know from this, the period in Bastogne and the Battle of the Bulge or whatever, that was a key point in particularly the journey of Easy Company, if not the US advance as a whole. So yes, of course they band together over that, and then someone comes in and they're like, "Oh no, you're not us anymore because you weren't out there in the middle of the freezing wastes with no food, no fucking bullets, no coats, whatever. You were tucked up nice and warm in a hospital, and now you come back that we're finished." Yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest. When Webster turned back up again, I spent about half the episode going, "Who the fuck is this guy?" And I, for the life of me, couldn't remember who he was.
One thing I'll say,
I can't remember seeing him in previous episodes, but I've only watched it once, so of course.
Yeah, this is the one thing. Having watched it multiple times over the years, the one great thing is give it a year. I wouldn't encourage you to watch it again so soon. Give it a year or so. Go back and watch it, and you'll go, "Holy shit! There they are. There they are. There they are. There they are." And you'll see all of them, and you'll get that understanding of the relationships that they build a little bit easier as well.
Yeah, I haven't got too many notes on this one that you haven't covered anyway. Obviously, there's the bit towards the end where they're pulling out of Hagenau, and they're sort of the voiceover is very much like, we're done. That was the end of our war. we're backing off now." And they thought they were done at that stage, didn't they? Because everything was going quite well towards Berlin. But yeah, I did that. Great episode. Bit more of I felt it was a little bit quieter, a little bit more contemplative as an episode. Not that the other ones haven't had that, but that was ramped up a little bit in this one. It was more about story and character and contemplating the surroundings than it was, actions and battles that some of the others have been.
So we move on to the next one now.
Episode 9, Why We Fight.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so foreshadowing this one, this is one of the hardest things to ever watch when it comes to the Second World War. Now, we've gone through the war at this point, and we know what has kind of been going on. There's a lot of battles all over the place, but we haven't seen the full extent of the atrocities that the Nazis have committed at this point. Now, there's war, etc., but these are the atrocities, and we're talking the persecution and destruction of the Jewish people. And this is the one that really comes home. So it starts off with Easy Company is clearing up a German village. So they're at the top of a building, and they're listening to, I think it's Beethoven. Well, somebody says it's something else, and
someone corrects them, don't they?
And then Nixon comes out and corrects them because he's a bit more of an educated guy. The rest, he's like, no, it's Beethoven. Adolf Hitler's dead. What? Yeah, he killed himself. Does this mean the war's over? No. Is basically the answer, but you're like, okay, so we found out that Hitler's dead. What happens at this point? And so it now kind of cuts back to Nixon, who has done a drop. For some reason, he went out and did a jump with the airborne. But it turns out after he jumped, the plane was shot down and everybody else on board was killed except for him. And he really does not take that well. He's looking for a drink. So this is again where he and Winters discuss his excessive drinking. He's also told that he's been demoted because he's getting to that point now.
I put it because of the drinking, I think.
Kind of the drinking, kind of a lot of things.
Why they kind of did that.
Yeah, I think he's also disagreed with the higher-ups and kind of told them to go fuck themselves because of what's been happening. So yeah, it's not going well. They also learned that Roosevelt has died. At the same time, he gets a letter from his wife asking for a divorce. So Nixon's not having the best of days.
Yeah.
So the company is sent into Germany basically, and at this point things have calmed down enough that they're kind of walking through the woods, and
yeah, we're sort of towards the tail end of the war, really, aren't we? Heading towards Berlin and.
Yeah, so we've got like the new guy, and we've got a few other guys, and they're walking through the woods, and they they're getting closer to the edge of these woods, and they kind of come across something. And on the edge of the woods, they suddenly see this concentration camp, or what we would learn to be as a concentration camp. So Pensacola goes running back to go and tell the higher ups, but he doesn't. It's when he gets there, they're like, "What is it?" And he's like, "I don't know." And it's just his like, "How do I explain what I've just seen?" So, the company goes and they drive out there. He points them in the direction, and they go out there. And Lipgott and I think is one of the other guys who's a translator. They start talking to the prisoners, and they learn that they're Jewish, that they're just musicians and artists and teachers, and they're basically the undesirables that the Germans didn't want. So they, put them all together, stuck them in this area. And it's the emaciation. They're like, half of them are walking dead, basically. They look like fucking zombies. Yeah. They are so emaciated, their bones are showing. It's one of the most harrowing fucking things that you see. So they suddenly they rush into action, and they like, okay, we need food, we need clothing, we need this, that, and the other. So they raid the town nearby, and the townspeople start having a go at them, and it's like, who the fuck do you think you are? Don't tell me you don't know what the fuck is going on down the road. Don't tell me you don't know this.
Yeah.
They're furious, and this is Nixon, who is absolutely furious about this whole situation because he's just riled up about everything. So they go there, and they go back with the food and stuff like that, and they're trying to hand it out, and then the medics come up and go, "We need to stop feeding them.
Yeah, we can't feed them.
We need to keep them in this place. We need to keep them confined. They've been trapped here for ages." And
because, like you say, when they find the concentration camp, the German officers have gone.
Yeah,
they've abandoned it and just locked the gates and left them locked in there.
The worst thing is that they lined as many people up as they could, shot as many as they could. When they ran out of ammo, then they left it.
Yeah, true, absolutely fucking true.
And it was that was Jesus. So yeah, it's pretty hard, and so they kind of go back, and Winters and Nixon are talking, and the fact that turns out this isn't the only camp that's been found. Like, rumors have been circulating. Apparently, the Russians have found a camp 5 times the size or 10 times the size on their side. And you just go, Jesus Christ, the scope. I mean, we'd learned from one of the prisoners that this was one camp of 2, that the men were there and that the women were in another camp further down the road because his wife was there and he'd not seen her in so long. So basically they're going to get the local Germans to basically help with the cleanup. And Nixon is furious at this point still, but he bumps into a woman whose house he kind of ransacked previously, trying to look for a good bottle of whiskey to drown his sorrows, and he sees her, and they just kind of have this look, and it's just like, she was clearly the wife of a German officer from when he went into her house, and now she's having to bury pits for all of these dead unfortunate souls, and it is just fucking harrowing at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're just furious because it then cuts back to the first scene of where the Nixon comes out and tells them that Hitler's died, and they're just like, fucking hell. They can't believe it at this point. They've been told, okay, we're moving on. Get ready. We're moving on to the Eagle's Nest, which is the next one. And then they just say, why didn't Hitler just kill himself years ago and spared us all the trouble?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, well, he didn't, so we got to carry on.
Yeah.
So like I said, I mean, there have been other episodes. The episode of Bastogne, again, we touched on so much in that one. This is the one that really brings things crashing down to reality. Mm-hmm. And again, we don't get big battle scenes in this one. That's not what this episode is about, and neither should it be either.
No, absolutely. No, I totally agree. Obviously, like you say, yes, it changes the gimmick for the episode again because we go to a sort of 1 month earlier type beginning. We start with the sequence, then we go 1 month earlier, and we find the lead up to that sequence. And as you say, the sequence is Nick's discovering that, or announcing that Hitler's dead. Tom Hardy. This was the first episode I noticed Tom Hardy in. Was it actually his first episode? Do you know? Because if it's the first episode he appears in, then he gets the award for best intro because he's just
he's just
some chick.
Banging away,
Yeah.
And
I was that's the intro you want, son. Especially when you're like a 12-year-old fresh-faced Tom Hardy. You pick that intro, mate. That's what you want.
It's where he walks in and he's just like, oh, where's my stuff? And the guy who's been collecting silver and various other things throughout the entire campaign is just like, yeah, I'm sending that back home. And it's like, you built up quite a collection there, sir. And you just think he's just been ransacking everything he comes across, and he's been sending it home. He's one rich motherfucker. Yeah. We'll get to a little bit on that in the last episode as well.
Like you said, before they actually find the concentration camp, there is an interesting bit because, like you said, I feel this whole episode is very dark. It's very bleak. There isn't a huge amount of positivity and hope coming out of this one, I wouldn't say. Because there's even bits before they find the concentration camp where even the Allies kill rather than capture. And that's something we'd not really looked at. It was always they were the bad guys and we were the good guys. And actually, we broke the rules too. We just fucking murdered them sometimes because... human nature means that people are going to get angry and emotional and blah, 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 and react in such situations. So you understand it. Is it right? No. But, I like that at least they touched on the fact that we weren't perfect either. I say the royal we, I mean, the Allied forces were not always as perfect and clean cut as we are portrayed. That concentration camp broke me for pretty much the rest of the episode. I was not expecting that. I couldn't fucking handle it. The one thing I struggle with the most and will break me apart is stuff to do with how appallingly humanity can behave towards others, and particularly over fucking religion. It's not. I mean, anyone who is religious who listens to this, fair play to you. I understand that faith can be an important part of life for people. Personally, that I'm not that isn't the way I work, but I totally respect people that like faith in their life and it helps them to carry on and go forth. That's fine. More power to you. But if you then use the teachings or you bastardize the teachings of your religion in order to justify doing damage to another human, then you're wrong. I'm sorry, you're wrong in that scenario, because that's nothing I have ever picked up from fucking religion. And I hate the fact that humanity can do this. We are capable of doing this to each other over something as simple as who do we believe a deity potentially might be in the sky, or
a difference of belief.
The person, that's exactly. It's not worth it. You don't kill people over that shit, man. You agree to disagree and you stop talking to them if you can't reconcile. Fair enough, but don't fucking hurt people. Don't resort to violence because you can't talk your way through your problems. Fucking hate it. As you mentioned, I feel like a fucking stuck record on all this shit, but the production value, the effects, as you say, when they walked into that concentration camp, if you'd have freeze framed a moment from that and posted it on a movie website, people probably would have picked something like Iron Sky, which is a Nazi zombie film, and would have said that the clip was from that, because they looked so, as you say, emaciated and pale and just withered away. And I don't understand how you do that without starving about 100 actors for about 3 weeks before you put them in there. They
some kind of prosthetics, they've got to. It's one of the things that you look at it and it's the realism of it, and that's the one thing we've said categorically throughout this entire series. The realism, and it's scary because you look at it and I'm afraid that these people are going to fall over and break.
That one guy that they're sort of talking to, how emaciated that gentleman's body was. Again, all right, so there are people who are very gaunt anyway because of their metabolisms and things. So I would assume
for a good portion of my life.
Exactly. You have a very, very fast metabolism, so you retain your thinness, you twat. One day I'm going to nick your metabolism, or I'm going to wait for the day where it finally fucking runs out.
I'm almost 40. It's slowing down a little bit. I did put on a little bit of weight over the year, so yeah.
One day you're just going to wake up and you're going to be a fat.
Whatever. You've been saying this for decades.
I know. Well, I woke up about a decade ago and was a fat bastard, so I'm used to it. The last thing, I feel bad now making a joke before I want to end on this one point.
I think we need to try it. This is the thing. When you've watched this and you start talk about it, you need to bring a little bit of levity. I'm not dismissing everything that we've talked about, but it's so fucking. It is so harsh. When you watch this, find something cheerful afterwards. It's one thing I would say. Don't necessarily go straight into the next episode because you need to find something to cheer you up.
Yeah.
It's
in this. It's the statistics right at the end of the episode. In this time, particularly at the time now, where numbers and death figures and things are a big thing at the minute, put this into comparison for what we're going through at the minute, guys. 5 million ethnic minorities and 6 million Jews are the approximate figures that came out of that war that Hitler killed through his concentration camps. 5 million ethnic minorities and 6 million Jews. That's 11 million people in total. And that's just the approximate numbers that we know that died in concentration camps.
That were executed.
That doesn't include anyone else, any other civilians they may have killed out in the streets. Doesn't include any of the army losses. None of that. This is just shit that went through the concentration camps. 11 million people. That is fucking sickening. Absolutely sickening to think that many millions of people died. And again, we're in this situation at the minute with a threat around. We're talking in terms of tens of thousands in the UK, in this particular country. I know our friends across the pond in the States, your numbers are up around the 100,000 now, I believe. You know, it's not competition, but the whole world seems to be fucking competing for something. We're into millions. And this was over a period of what? 5 years. 5 years, yes, 6 years, I suppose. It was 39 to 45, wasn't it? But they don't think the concentration camps were there.
No, I would have. Yeah,
it
was.
So it'd be 4 or 5 years, wouldn't it? But
yeah,
I can't believe it. And again, to anyone who is interested, to tag back to the World War II in Colour series, towards the end, when they, as you said, it is the Russians who discovered the first one in Poland. I don't believe it was Auschwitz, but it was a very, very big one. And that was the first time when anyone at all in 1945, we were in early 45 at this stage. That's the first time that anyone from the Allied forces knew what the fuck was going on and actually started to uncover these concentration camps. And again, I didn't realize that. I thought this was a known thing from the beginning. I thought we knew this shit was going on. I didn't realize that we only discovered it in the dying 6 months of the war, as we actually started, as the Allied forces started pushing in from all sides.
I mean, there's so much information now. I mean, you know, it's whether a case of some of the higher ups knew some of the things that were going on, because at the end of the day, they would have had spies everywhere. There were still, information gathering from all parts. And as harrowing and horrible as it is, that didn't seem perhaps important to the war effort. Yes, this is a bunch of people who were going through some horrible stuff. But until that became commonplace, but that was it. If anything, in the final days of the war, that just ramped up. The hatred of the Nazis was high at that point. You're trying to take over, the Europe, the world. That just ramped it up to 11. As soon as that stuff kind of came out, that ramped up everybody's emotions to 11. But at this point, they wanted to annihilate the Nazis. It wasn't a case of, we want to defeat them. We literally want to wipe them from the face of the fucking earth because of what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we move into the last episode, which was titled Points. Now, points for this one was all about the point system, which was needed by certain soldiers for them to be able to go home, essentially, until the end of the war. So if you achieved a certain number of points, that would give you an entitlement to be able to go home. Like, we're in the latter stages of the war now. We don't need as many soldiers here. So we start off this with... and the focus of this one is Winters. So Damian Lewis's character, which is very befitting. I think it really needed to end on him.
Yeah, I think it sort of brings it full circle, doesn't it?
It does very much. Yeah. So you see him, and again, this is the polar opposite of what we've seen a lot of the war. He's swimming in a lovely little river, lake, in Austria, and it's just like the most beautiful scenery. And you look at it and you go, my God, like this is paradise. Like you've gone from the harrowing display that we've seen the episode before to one of the most beautiful images. So we now start the episode here with Winters, which is completely fitting. You know that he is the person who completes the last episode in terms of the narration. As you'd said before, you know, this book ends it perfectly.
Yeah.
So it shows him having a little swim in a lake in Austria in one of the most beautiful surroundings I've ever seen on screen. It is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I actually, my note for that one is the backdrop to where Winters is staying is almost too pretty to be real.
Yeah, and you just kind of go, fucking hell. And even he's like, it's not a bad place to kind of be putting our head down at the moment. Again, this is, you know, completely different to the harrowing scenes of the concentration camp that we'd seen in an episode before. So this is very much a change of pace there. So at the moment, the troops are just kind of hunkering down in Austria. They're waiting for their next orders, which come through, and it's basically to take the Eagle's Nest, because apparently there's a bit of a race between, I think it's them and the Russians. So the Eagle's Nest is a very important place. It was kind of
the fucking Eagle's Nest is a cross between like a supervillain lair and King's Landing. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I've never seen the Eagle's Nest before, but obviously heard of it. But Jesus fucking Christ, if that was actually what it looked like, what a fucking arrogant fuck. No wonder Hitler was what he was.
Yeah, so they just keep pushing on, and there's rubble in the way and stuff like that. So eventually they find their way up there, and they go in. And there's still it's hilarious. There's still butlers and maids there, like putting down cutlery, expecting people, and then suddenly see these Americans and shit their pants and then run off. And then this is where somebody like Spears comes in, and he grabs his helmet and just starts shoveling in loads of cutlery, and everybody starts taking stuff.
Yeah, there's the big thing where they're sort of splitting a set of silver cutlery because they're like, no, well, I don't take it all. I want some. All right, well, I'll take these bits, and you take those bits.
Winters at this point is getting in on the act. And you're like, fucking hell, brilliant. But Spears is like the go-to guy for getting all this stuff. So they carry on and they go up to the Eagle's Nest, and then they get into the main hub. And then one of the guys finds a photo album, like Adolf Hitler's personal photo album, who he obviously clearly keeps and steals, and then lies to Spears about it. Spears is like, I know there was a photo album there. Where is it? I know you had it. And he's like, don't know what you're talking about. Okay, this isn't the end of that. And he walks away with a smile like, fuck you, Spears. You ain't having it. It's mine. And that was, it's just brilliant. It's just a funny little moment. So Winters is also kind of telling Nixon, that's it. You know, there's nobody here. So do you want to follow me? And he's like, what? He's like, come on. So he drives him up in a Jeep and to Hermann Goering's private wine cellar. Oh, yeah. And like Nixon walks in and he's just like, his jaw just hits the floor. This is like the world's biggest, baddest, bastard ass wine cellar of every known bottle and vintage you could ever possibly think of. Nixon walks in there, just picks up a bottle, and he's just like, fucking hell. And Winters is like, right, we're going to distribute this out to the soldiers, but you get first pick. The guy, the alcoholic, the one guy who's been a drunk throughout the entire fucking ordeal, you get to go nuts to the wall against all of this wine, which is just a brilliant thing. Because again, it just shows the absolute ridiculousness that they were storing like bottles of wine and stuff like this. There's a war going on, and they were more concerned about the luxuries in life. So yeah, that's.
I do think there's a feeling in this one that sort of Winters has tried to sort of shuffle everyone off to one side with Easy. They've sort of he's tried to put them on a side path where they're not going to meet any resistance and have to fight anymore. Yeah, sort of. Yeah, we're going to go and do this mission, but yeah, don't worry, we shouldn't run into anyone. It's fine. Because again, when they're at the Eagle's Nest, they hear that the general surrender's gone out. So the Germans are surrendering, so they're all like, "Oh, okay, well that's it then. We are now properly done, aren't we?"
Yeah, they're expecting a fight back, and it never comes. They're expecting somebody to come out of the woodwork, and it never comes. So yeah, it's but this is where things begin as as Damian Lewis begins to say, things aren't going great still for the company. They're still suffering from fatigue, nerves, and boredom, and this then gets to some pretty horrible shit. We've got one of the guys who was Lipgott, who was the German speaker from the previous episode. Again, when you go back, you'll see him in the background for not a number of episodes. He finds a guy who he believes ran one of the camps, and he drives up to there, and he goes to kill him. And he goes with Webster as well, and Webster kind of has an argument with him, like, I don't think this is right. And then one of the other guys ends up shooting him instead. And he's just like, oh, fucking hell. We've got guys wondering about going over to the Pacific because everything has kind of happened in Europe now.
And the last part of their campaign now is Japan, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So while they're stuck, and this is where Winters and Nixon kind of have that talk, and Winters is like, well, if I've got to go, I'd rather go now and kind of get it over with. So they're having that discussion about their plans for after the war, so to speak. A pretty shitty, horrible bastard. So there's one of the replacement gets a bit drunk. He kills a British officer. He kills a German officer. And then one of the staff sergeants, who, again, we've seen kind of in the background a lot throughout most of the episodes, hasn't necessarily taken a huge front role. I think it's Grant, gets shot in the head by this guy. So they then run around town trying to find a brain surgeon to kind of come and fix him. They find the guy who shot him. They beat the ever-living shit out of the guy until Spears arrives, and you're thinking, this is Spears, the guy who gave the Germans a cigarette and gunned them down. But he doesn't. He doesn't kill him. He holds the gun to the guy's head, and he's very, very tempted. But he doesn't. He goes, give this piece of shit to the MPs. Don't worry, Grant survived. He's going to live. And you kind of like, fucking hell. But even this, it's like, okay, this is still not the best part of it. We get a German soldier who's going to give his formal surrender, but he doesn't want to give it to a low-ranking officer, so he kind of wants Winters to kind of take it, but Winters kind of points at the man he's supposed to be doing it to. So he does. He's like, no, it's fine. Just hand your gun over to him. Surrender to him. You can keep your gun. And all this kind of stuff. So there's a level of respect. It's like, yeah, you've lost the war. You're in charge, and your men are still here. But just as I take my orders from above and do what they do, you did the same. I have no grievance against you as an individual, and that's kind of the thing. He's like, yeah, it's funny. And we also get Sobel. We get to see Sobel back from the first episode.
So I've got a note there that says Schwimmer's still a dick.
Yeah, Schwimmer is still a dick, and he walks past Winters and doesn't salute him, doesn't acknowledge him, and he's like, "Excuse me, Captain. We salute the rank, not the man." So Sobel turns around, salutes him, and it's just brilliant because it's like we've and also the rest of the company are seeing Spears, and they're like, "That's Spears," and they're like, and he looks around and sees the rest of these guys that he helped train. And you can't help but feel on their side, they look at him and think, fucking hell, like this is a guy who never went through it. And he's looking at them thinking, fuck, I'm glad I didn't go through what they've gone through. You don't know. So we also get a lovely moment as well. I mean, this is the thing. It's even though we've got the American side and the German side, they're still each of them still has their brotherhood. And this is where the general or whoever who's in charge of the German soldiers asks if he can speak to his troops, and they say, "Yeah, that's of course you can speak to your troops." So he goes, and Lipgott is stood next to Winters and translates for him, and this guy gives this wonderful speech, and that's the hilarious thing that this is the German general, admiral, whatever the hell he is, who's giving this speech and basically saying, "You've all had my back. We've gone through horrible shit together, but we are one unity. We are brothers." And it's this wonderful speech, and that is the camaraderie of these brotherhood in the armed forces, and you understand that it's like they may have been on the losing side, and they may be prisoners and whatnot now, but it doesn't disrupt the respect that he has for his troops. So as the episode kind of closes out at this point, we get Winters, who basically kind of goes, they do this wonderful little reunion bit where they're all kind of around a baseball field, and they're all playing. We get Buck Compton coming back to say hello, just to make sure everybody's okay. Yep. And then we get the tales of everybody that lived and what they did and where they went on to. Winters trying to get various people to go home. He sends Malarkey
home.
They send Malarkey to they send Malarkey to Paris.
That's
so
right.
Malarkey
he hasn't quite got enough points, has he?
Hasn't got enough
points. All think he deserves to go home.
Yeah. Winters is like trying to find every opportunity to get people to go home, and he's like, they're doing a show in Paris, and we need to send a representative. I don't think you'll be coming back to us. Go to Paris and stay there, basically.
The war, yeah.
Yeah, and Winters knows how much Malarkey's gone through, and it means a lot to him. And Shifty as well. I think it's a little bit earlier in the episode. Again, Shifty's got no points for poor old Shifty, the sniper, because he's never been injured. He's never been injured and stuff like this. Like, points are accumulated based on injury and this, that, and the other. Shifty's never been injured, so he doesn't have any fucking points. And they absolutely hate that. So they're all like, okay, we need to send somebody home. We're going to put names into a hat, and whoever's name we pick out is the person that gets sent home. There's only one name in that hat, and it's Shifty. And they're all smile because they're like, this is the sniper who fucking saved so many of our lives. This guy deserves to go home. And it's his conversation, which I alluded to in the previous episode, where Shifty goes up to Winters before he's about to get on his journey home, which we learn is a lot longer, and he has accidents and stuff, but he finally gets home. But it's where he goes up to Winters and he just says, I don't quite know how I'm going to explain this to the people back home. Because you can see the absolute horror that he's gone through, but he understands why he had to do it. And Winters kind of explains, you were there, you defended your brothers, and you did what was asked of you. Nobody could ask anything more. But it's that thing that every single soldier from that war, as I touched on about with my granddad, they all went home with these horrors of the war. And how do you explain that when you go home to people? Oh, you fought in the war, you must have been a badass and stuff like that. I can understand why my granddad was always reluctant to talk about it, because it's not a tale that you want to tell. It's not a tale that you want to talk about your friends dying and this, that, and the other. And this is the moment for me that really sings that true, that he has that conversation with Winters, and he just tells him, you were a good soldier. You saved a lot of people's lives. Don't be bad about that. You did the right thing. So as it comes to a close, we then see the various imposed figures that we've seen throughout the entire thing, the documentary figures, and we get to see the real talking head figures. So we get to see all the real Winters and various other characters. Gonorrhea is in there and stuff like that, so you know that he and Joe made it back alive, and that you get to see them in this, and they go through the various stories of how they had reunions and get-togethers, and how he lost touch with Nixon, but then he got back in touch with him kind of just before this kind of series kicked off, and that they had be able to build a relationship. And it just emphasized by the end of this that they were this band of brothers, that they went through all this horrible shit together, but they had each other's backs. And by the end, it's just one of the best series I've ever watched that shows such detail for World War II, both from a technical standpoint of the visual action of battles to the emotional, mental fatigue that you see on the soldiers' faces.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it is an incredible series. It covers so many different aspects, as you say. It has episodes where it gets bogged down in the detail of supply lines and medics, and then it has episodes that are just all about a massive all-out artillery battle on the front lines of the war. I have got to mention your mate Shifty, because fuck, man, what? I know you said shit happens to him, but yeah, I wrote it down. So
yeah, on his journey home, yeah,
on the way to the plane that's going to take him home, he gets fucked up in a car accident.
Yeah.
Man, that guy cannot catch a fucking break, dude.
He's gone the entire war without being injured. And on his way home, he gets injured. And he's out like for like 6 months to a year. He's in hospital, like getting his leg sorted or something.
It goes to illustrate a point about life in general, isn't there? That it's all about risk. He was at a far higher risk of getting injured or dying when he was in the battlefield. But when you get in a car to drive anywhere, you take on an element of risk. Because it's not even under your control. Someone else could crash into you and kill you. And there may have been nothing you could do about it, even though you were the one controlling your car. You don't know when these things are going to happen. Life is about risk in general. There is risk associated with everything. And you have to decide whether the risk profile is okay for you or not for you to carry out that action. And that's what life comes down to in all facets. You know, I would even apply that to the scenario we're going through right now. It's not going anywhere, so I think we all just have to start deciding how much of a risk factor we can live with to go, to carry on with our daily lives. Yeah, I don't think I've got, like, say, yay, Buck. I'm glad Buck came at the end. I liked the whole wrap-up thing. And yes, they told me who the talking heads were, so I knew who I'd been listening to. And yeah, it was a very emotional, impactful ending. Yeah, I think it's incredible. I'm really glad that I've watched it. I'd say because it wasn't just... I think my whole thing about I don't like war movies is that I think things like Private Ryan turned me off it because I felt that was a bit too blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
It focused on the bits it wanted to because I'd never argue that the opening D-Day sequence is an incredible piece of filmmaking.
Yeah.
Because it is. On a technical level, it's absolutely fantastic. However, I don't get anywhere near the sort of empathetic reaction with that film as I do with the series Band of Brothers, because I don't ever feel like the characters always feel a bit too glossy.
Yeah,
when I'm watching it, certain element of Hollywood gloss. My example at the minute is actually before they pulled the trailers because they're pushing it. Is the trailer for No Time to Die, the next Bond film, has Daniel Craig on a bridge and he's kind of got muck on his cheeks and stuff, but he still looks glossy. They've managed to try and make him look dirty.
Okay, we're going to put you into makeup.
Like a glossy Hollywood star
some mud on. Yeah,
that's got a little bit of carefully placed mud on his cheeks. It just looks too glossy. And
like I
feel like that about some of the Hollywood war movies that have been made. But stuff like World War II in Colour that we've covered, stuff like this, stuff like Pearl Harbor. What a fantastic war movie that is. Please no, I'm joking. Please no, I'm joking.
Please,
don't jump on me.
I'm not going to lie.
That was me trying to trigger people, all right?
It's funny because, you know what? If you actually cut out sections of that film, I think it would be watchable. But it's the dual love story where she ends up with one of the dudes, then he dies, so she goes with the other dude, who then died, so she flips back to the other dude, whose son she's just had. Fuck off.
Well, I think, if I'm being honest, I think you could cut together maybe a half an hour to 45-minute incredible action sequence.
Yes.
That's about all I could pull out of it, because we know this. Michael Bay knows how to do action. We know he does. I'd never argue that point. I think he's a very competent action director. With even elements of flair, he just goes so far as to say
he just lacks the emotional and psychological.
He has no idea how to put a story together and to add any emotional pathos. Anyway, I think it's fantastic. I'm glad I watched it. I don't know anything about the Pacific series which followed this, but I'd be up for watching that if you wanted to do one on that at some point.
Happy to do so. So
obviously we've got our next couple planned out, so we'll perhaps look at it after that.
Yeah, so the Pacific For those who don't know, again, if you've listened to the Band of Brothers and you're going to go and watch that, or you've watched it and interested in another one, yes, there was another series called The Pacific, which was set, ironically enough, on the Pacific side of the World War II.
Which is something I know absolutely zero about, really.
Which is exactly the same as I was. There's a lot of places that you will have heard of, Iwo Jima and things like that.
Clint Eastwood did a couple of films, didn't he? Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
He did
so you get
two.
You get to meet a couple of, again, you may have heard of a couple of the characters from it. Again, I won't say too much on it because it'd be nice, but it was a really good one. I still prefer Band of Brothers over the Pacific. The Pacific is really harsh in a couple of places. It really touches on the PTSD and the psychological impact, particularly for one of the characters. And that is something that we'll heavily touch on. There is also, I think I may have mentioned it previously in one of our news segments on our previous episode, but there is also another series from the same guys who brought us Band of Brothers and brought us The Pacific, and that's called Masters of the Air. So that will obviously be covering the aerial side of the battles, etc. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
I'd be interested to see that. Absolutely. Is
that
out now, or is that like
no? That's under production at the moment. So that's in production.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah.
So again, I think we're having watched Band of Brothers Pacific. Yeah, they're ground-based assaults, etc., which is easier to shoot. Whereas now, obviously, with technology, I think I again having seen Dunkirk. Thank you, Dunkirk. I was about to say 1917, but no, Dunkirk. And the flight sequences in there.
They just need to go and talk to Nolan and say, give us all the kit you designed, made for that film, because that gimbal they designed for the interior shots is fucking incredible.
Now, I've heard it may be only a 6-episode run as opposed to a 10, but I don't know that for definite. That is something I read a while ago.
I suppose there might not be as much story to tell in the air because the air were essentially supporting the ground, weren't they, a lot of the time? So
and also budgetary.
You don't want to go over the same ground again, just looking at it from above, do you? You want to look at the for example, from the UK Allied side of it, we have the Battle of Britain was our big air battle of the war that we make films about if we're going to, or the Dam Busters. That was another UK aerial attack that we look at. Other than that, it's all, like you say, it's a D-Day and Dunkirk and stuff for the UK, and obviously the Americans have their side of it as well, which, like you say, does sort of cross into the Pacific elements. Yeah, good. Well, I enjoyed that. I very much enjoyed that show. And like you say, yes, I will probably go back and watch some more of it at some point. It's one I'd like to watch with the good lady teacher when we can finally sit down and watch some telly again at some point. I actually saw her yesterday, though, for the first time in fucking 11 weeks, which was really nice. So I think we will leave it at that stage. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. If you would like to get involved, go to the Facebook page at facebook.com/TheScreenMasters. You can send us a message through that. Or you can email directly at screenmasters@bitebackmedia.co.uk, and you can head over to the YouTube at bit.ly/bitebackYT to go and look at the YouTube stuff. And
how do you spell bite?
Well, the bite, you see, it's funnily enough, it's spelled like a computer bite, not a food bite.
Is it? Didn't know that.
I know. Got to remember, there might be new people. We might be getting through to a new audience.
That's
I don't know whether that new audience made it to the end of this episode or whether they've turned off by now, but, they might have done. Anyway, I have been Bav.
I have been Fluff.
And this has been ScreenMasters.